I thought I knew this woman. I thought I knew myself. But one day everything was turned upside down, and what I found out broke my heart and tore me apart. What happened at the end surprised even me. They say the smallest things can change everything. It's not always some grand betrayal or a dramatic scene that wakes you up. Sometimes it's as simple as a phone, a device I'd stopped thinking about years ago because trust meant I didn't need to. But lately, it was like that phone had become a third person in our house. A few months ago, I started noticing little things. Claire always took her phone with her, even into the bathroom. Always. I mean, who the hell does that unless they've got something to hide? She used to leave it out in the kitchen charging overnight like it was no big deal. Now it was tucked under her pillow like some kind of treasure. I told myself it was probably just a new habit. Maybe she was watching videos late at night or reading. I didn't want to be that guy, the paranoid husband, snooping, suspecting. That's not who I am, or wasn't. Then a month later, everything shifted. It was a regular Tuesday morning, and I was rushing to get Evan to school. He was running around with his backpack half open, yelling about some project he forgot. In all the chaos, I left my phone on the kitchen counter. I didn't even notice until we were halfway to the school. I almost turned around, but I figured, whatever, it's just a phone. But I got this gnawing feeling, like I should go back. Not because I needed the phone, but because something felt off. That kind of unease that settles in your gut and won't let go. So I dropped Evan off, told him I'd be back later for practice, and headed home. The house was quiet when I walked in. Too quiet. I moved through the front hall, and as I reached the stairs, I heard it. Quick, light footsteps. Then the sharp sound of a door clicking shut. My heart punched hard in my chest. I climbed the stairs, slow, careful, trying not to make a sound. And that's when I saw her, Claire, in our bedroom, rushing to the nightstand, holding her phone like it was on fire. Her eyes flicked up, wide, startled, and then narrowed. She was deleting something fast, fingers tapping like crazy. "What are you doing?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. She looked up, almost smug. "Spam. Just junk messages," she said, shrugging like it was nothing. Spam. At 8 in the morning, with that look on her face? I didn't say a word, just nodded like I believed her. But something cracked open inside me in that moment, and once that crack started, I couldn't seal it back up. That night, I lay in bed next to her, staring at the ceiling, pretending to be asleep while she scrolled through her phone under the covers. My mind kept replaying her expression, the way she'd rushed to hide, whatever it was. The next few days, I told myself I was overthinking, but deep down I knew. And then, a week later, I found it. The sock. It was early Saturday morning. I was doing laundry because Claire had to work. Again, and the kids had soccer. I reached into the washer and pulled out something that didn't belong. A sock, but not just any sock. This one was expensive. Designer, embroidered with initials. Not mine. For a second, I just stood there, holding it in my hand, trying to process. I don't wear socks like that. I don't even own anything that fancy. Claire came in behind me, saw what I was holding, and just laughed. "Oh, that must be my brother," she said too quickly. "He visited last week, remember?" Number I didn't remember, but I nodded anyway. Right, of course. Later that day, I texted her brother casual, asked how he was when we'd see him again. His reply came fast. "Haven't been out your way in over 6 months, man. You guys still good?" I stared at that message for a long time, fingers frozen over the screen. Then I looked at the sock again. The initials didn't match his name, not even close. That night I didn't sleep. I couldn't. My mind was racing, looping back to her phone, her quick lies, the sock, the way she laughed too easily. Something was wrong. Something was happening, and I needed to know the truth. The next morning, while Claire took the kids out, I went into the bedroom and stared at the walls, the ceiling, the corners of the room. I had a plan forming. Not out of anger, but necessity. I wasn't going to ask questions she'd just lie to answer. I wasn't going to accuse. I was going to see. I pried off a wall panel near the ceiling vent, A fake cover we used to hide wiring when we remodeled. Perfect place. I set up a small hidden camera, wired to a feed I could check remotely. It blended right in. She wouldn't notice. By the time she came home that evening, I was downstairs playing with the kids, smiling like everything was normal. The first week, there was nothing, just the usual. Her on the phone, watching shows, reading. I almost convinced myself I was wrong, that maybe I'd imagined it all, that I was being paranoid. Then Thursday night, everything changed. I sat in my car outside the office watching the live feed. She was on the bed, phone pressed to her ear, giggling softly. And then the words came through, muffled but clear enough. "My wild beast, I miss you already." My hand clenched hard on the steering wheel, knuckles white. My breath caught in my throat, and for a second the whole world tilted sideways. Wild beast. She wasn't talking to a friend. She wasn't talking to me. And now I knew. After that night, the words wouldn't stop echoing in my head. My wild beast, I miss you already. Every time I looked at Claire, I heard it again. Her voice, low and soft, filled with that breathy tone she never used with me anymore. I started watching everything. The way she smiled when her phone buzzed, how her fingers curled protectively around it, like she was shielding a secret from the world. From me. And hell, maybe she was. I knew I couldn't just confront her. That wouldn't do anything. She'd lie, twist it, make me feel crazy. She was good at that. So I waited, planned, picked my moment. I decided on a family dinner. Friends, close relatives, all of us together under one roof. Laughing, drinking, eating. It was the perfect stage. I wanted to see her slip, see how deep this hole went. The guest list was long. Old friends, cousins, her parents. I set everything up, sent invites, ordered food, cleaned the house until the floors gleamed. Claire was thrilled, said it had been too long since we had everyone together. Her eyes sparkled when she said that same sparkle she had when she told him she missed him. The night came fast, our home filled with noise, the clatter of dishes, the smell of roasting meat, the constant hum of conversation. Claire floated from room to room like nothing was wrong, laughing too loud, hugging everyone a little too long. I watched her the whole night, waiting. And then it happened. Her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. She glanced at it, a quick flick of her eyes, and all the color drained from her face. She snatched it up, muttered something about the bathroom, and disappeared. I waited. 10 minutes passed. 15. Too long. I moved down the hall quiet and stood outside the bathroom door. I could hear her, breathing hard, little gasps, not quite crying. I knocked. "Claire, you okay?" No answer. Just the sound of water running. She came out 2 minutes later, face flushed, eyes red-rimmed, lipstick smudged across her cheek like war paint. Her hands trembled as she wiped them on her dress. "You good?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. She nodded, didn't say a word, and slipped past me like a ghost. I followed her back to the dining room, but the spark was gone. She didn't talk, didn't laugh. Just sat there, picking at her food, barely breathing. That night when she finally fell asleep, I slipped her phone from under the pillow. My heart pounded as I opened it. Nothing. No texts, no calls, no emails. Wiped clean. She was careful, always one step ahead. But she made a mistake. I opened her photo gallery. At first it was the usual, family shots, the kids, old birthday parties. Then I saw it, a folder buried at the bottom, almost hidden. I opened it. Pictures, Claire on a beach, white sand, blue water, the Maldives. She told me she was on a business trip those days, said it was a workshop in Chicago. I remember because I was home with the kids, juggling work and daycare. She even sent me photos of her hotel room. Stock images, I realized now, ripped straight from Google. But these pictures, these were real. Her in a bikini I'd never seen before, smiling like she didn't have a care in the world. In one photo, she was holding someone's hand, a man's hand, strong, tan, wearing a designer watch. His face wasn't in the frame, but I didn't need to see it. I knew. I stared at the photos until my eyes burned. My hands shook. It wasn't just cheating. It wasn't just lies. She had a life I didn't know about. The next morning I acted normal. Kissed her cheek, made breakfast for the kids, packed their lunches. But my head was somewhere else. I told Claire I had a business trip coming up, 3 days out of town. She nodded, barely interested, probably relieved. What she didn't know was that I never left. I checked into a motel on the edge of town, one I knew well from road trips, and I waited. Late that night, I drove past our house. The lights were off, curtains drawn, dead quiet. I parked down the block, killed the engine, and crouched low in the bushes across the street. It was cold. My legs ached. My breath misted in the air like smoke. 30 minutes passed. Then I saw it. A car pulled into the driveway. Sleek, black, high-end. The headlights cut through the dark like knives. The driver's door opened, and a man stepped out. Tall, dressed sharp. Expensive watch glinting under the porch light. It was him. It had to be. He moved like he owned the place. No hesitation, no fear. I gripped my phone, raised it, and snapped photos. His face clear as day. The car, a black Mercedes, polished to a mirror shine. The license plate, everything. He walked out of the house 20 minutes later, smoothing his shirt, adjusting his belt. Claire stood in the doorway, barefoot, hair tousled, wearing my shirt. She kissed him. I took the photos. Every angle, every second. Then I waited, watched them, until the Mercedes disappeared into the night and the door clicked shut. The photos burned a hole in my phone. Every time I glanced at them, I felt the same sickness, like something rotted inside me, sour and sharp. I couldn't stop looking. Couldn't stop seeing Claire in that doorway, her arms around him, her mouth on his neck, wearing my shirt, smiling, like it was nothing. The next morning, I sat in my office staring at the screen. The cursor blinked in the middle of an empty report. I couldn't think, couldn't work. My stomach churned, hands clammy. The walls felt too close, the air too thick. My mind kept replaying everything. The photos, the lies, my wild beast. Over and over until the rage blurred into something I didn't recognize. My hand trembled as I reached for the coffee mug, and it slipped. Crashed to the floor, shattered. A sharp jolt of sound. Everyone in the office looked up, startled. I stood, walked to the break room. There was another mug on the counter, plain white with a chip in the rim. I picked it up, stared at it. Then I hurled it against the wall with everything I had. Porcelain exploded in every direction. A few coworkers shouted. Someone swore. I didn't care. I walked out, heart pounding, vision swimming. My boss caught me near the hallway, eyes wide. What the hell's going on? I stared at him, couldn't speak. My throat felt raw, my chest tight, like something was crushing me from the inside out. I stumbled into the bathroom, locked the stall, and slid to the floor. My head dropped into my hands, and then I cried. Not quiet, not soft. Full-on sobbing, choking on the kind of pain that doesn't have words. I couldn't stop. I hadn't cried in years, but now it came pouring out like a dam broke, and everything behind it rushed through me, drowning me. 15 minutes passed before I pulled myself together. I stared at my face in the mirror. Hollow eyes, drawn skin. I barely recognized the man looking back at me. I couldn't keep going like this. I walked out, grabbed my bag, and told my boss I was taking leave. Mental health. He didn't argue. He didn't even ask. Just nodded and told me to take care of myself. On the way home, I stopped for gas and ran into an old friend from high school, Jake. We hadn't seen each other in years, but he recognized me instantly. He smiled wide, clapped me on the back. Damn, man, it's been forever. You good? I didn't answer right away. Something in my face must have given it away because his smile faded. You don't look good. And just like that, it all came pouring out. Not every detail, just enough. The phone, the sock, the man, the photos. He listened without interrupting. Then he said, "You need to ruin her." I shook my head. I don't even know what to do. I can't think. Let me help. I hesitated. Help how? Jake was the kind of guy who knew people, who could make things happen. Back in the day, he was the one we went to when things got messy. He'd always find a way to fix it. Start gathering everything. Videos, texts, photos, anything. We'll put it together, and when the time's right, we'll make her life hell. I felt something shift inside me, a flicker of purpose, a reason to stop drowning. Can you follow her? I asked. Jake grinned. Already on it. He started the next morning. Said he had time between jobs and I wasn't going to stop him. He wanted in. Said betrayal like this doesn't get a pass. And honestly, I needed him. Needed someone else to hold the weight for a while because I couldn't breathe under it. That evening, I sat in the living room while Claire was upstairs with the kids, reading them bedtime stories. Her voice drifted down the stairs, soft and sweet. The same voice that called him her wild beast. I stared at the ceiling, at the walls, at the photos of us on the shelves. Vacations, holidays, smiles that meant nothing now. My hands itched to tear them all down, to shatter every lie we'd lived. But I didn't move. Not yet. Jake called later, said he got some photos. Claire and the guy. Again, meeting at a coffee shop across town. She leaned in, touched his hand, whispered something in his ear. The guy laughed, kissed her neck. He recorded everything. Then he sent the audio. A clip of her talking on the phone, her voice sharp and low. He's clueless, a sheep, blind as hell, thinks I'm a saint. My chest locked tight. I couldn't breathe. I played it again. And again. He's clueless. A sheep. Blind as hell. I wasn't blind anymore. I wasn't anything like I used to be. It's strange how the human body can take hit after hit and still keep moving, until suddenly it can't. Mine had been running on fumes for weeks, maybe longer. No sleep, no peace, just anger, suspicion, and the sound of her voice calling someone else wild beast. That was my fuel, but it wasn't enough. It was late, past midnight, when I heard it. Claire's voice, low and conspiratorial, drifting from the kitchen. I was in the hallway, lights off, walking toward the fridge when I froze. Someone was with her. Another voice. A woman's, familiar, but I couldn't place it. I stepped back, into the shadows and listened. Aren't you afraid he'll find out? The friend asked. Claire laughed, loud and bitter, like the thought amused her. He's a blind sheep, she said, sharp and clear. Thinks I'm a saint. The words hit me like a punch. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I clutched the wall, my legs giving out, chest tightening like a vice. My heart thundered, not with rage, but pain, real pain, a crushing weight in my chest that sent fire down my arms. I stumbled into the kids' room, desperate to sit, to be somewhere familiar. Evan was asleep, breathing slow and steady. I reached for the edge of his bed and collapsed. The world tilted, blurred, vanished. I came to on the floor, soaked in sweat, my breathing shallow, my heart still pounding, erratic. Claire never even knew. She stayed in the kitchen, laughing. I dragged myself out, somehow made it to our bedroom, lay there staring at the ceiling until dawn broke through the window. My hands trembled as I reached for my chest, fear crawling through me. I'd had heart issues before, manageable, nothing major. But now, this was something else, something worse. I should have gone to the hospital. I didn't. I couldn't. The next few days passed in a haze. I functioned, barely. Work was a blur. I sat in meetings, people talked, I nodded, but nothing landed. My chest ached constantly, like a reminder, a countdown. Then the call came. I was at my desk when the school rang. Evan had been in a fight, bloodied knuckles, a split lip. I rushed to the school, heart racing, body on autopilot. The principal sat across from me, hands folded, face grim. Evan sat beside me, head down, silent. He punched another student, the principal said. We're concerned. This isn't like him. I turned to Evan, voice low. Why? His eyes welled up, red and glassy. He said Mom's a cheater. Silence. The room spun. My stomach turned. Evan wiped his face, trying to stay strong. My hands shook as I reached for his shoulder, but I pulled back, afraid I'd break apart if I touched him. The principal said something about suspension, counseling. I nodded, didn't hear a word. On the way home, Evan sat in the back seat, quiet. I stared straight ahead, hands clenched on the wheel. This wasn't just between me and Claire anymore. It had leaked out, bled into the world, into our son's world. I parked the car and sat there, unable to move. Everything was spiraling. Claire wasn't home, work, or more likely him, and I was alone again. Alone with the weight of her betrayal and the wreckage it was causing. I walked into the kitchen, opened the cabinet where we kept the kids' college savings paperwork. Claire managed the accounts. I needed to feel grounded, needed to see something still intact. Instead, I found a transaction history, transfers, tens of thousands of dollars missing. I stared at the numbers, blinking hard. $32,000, gone. I flipped through the pages, heart pounding again. Forged signatures, fake authorizations. She hadn't just betrayed me. She'd stolen from our children. I grabbed my phone, called our bank, confirmed it, confirmed everything. She'd opened a secret account. My world tilted again, but this time it didn't stop. I stormed into the living room, kicked over the coffee table, glass shattering across the floor. This wasn't just about him. It wasn't just her and that slick bastard in the Mercedes. This was bigger, deeper. Claire was ripping our life apart at the seams, and I was just now seeing how far it had gone. She came home later that night, humming some song. Happy. I didn't say a word, didn't even look at her. I just stared at the wall, planning. Because this wasn't just infidelity anymore. The next morning I stood in front of the mirror, tying my tie with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. The reflection staring back at me wasn't familiar anymore. Eyes sunken, face drawn, anger etched into every line. But beneath all that, something sharper had taken root. Cold, focused. I wasn't the same man who'd stared at the ceiling every night, wondering if he was crazy. I wasn't the husband who still held out hope. That man was dead. Claire had killed him. There was a family gathering planned for that evening. Her idea, of course. Another attempt to pretend. Smile. Play the part of the loving wife, the perfect mother, while behind everyone's back she tore us apart. But this time, I wasn't going to pretend. I walked into the lawyer's office before noon, files in hand, the forged documents, the bank statements, the photos of her and the bastard in the Mercedes, everything. I laid it out piece by piece, like a surgeon prepping for operation. The lawyer looked up at me, silent for a moment, then said, "We can get that money back." That was all I needed to hear. By the time I got home, Claire was in full host mode, setting the table, arranging candles, humming as she moved. The kids helped, laughing, unaware. She smiled at me when I walked in, eyes bright like nothing was wrong. I smiled back. Let her believe it. Let her enjoy these last moments of her perfect charade. The house filled quickly. Her parents, her sister, cousins, friends from the neighborhood. Everyone laughing, clinking glasses, plates full of food. I moved through the crowd like a ghost, nodding, shaking hands. But my eyes never left Claire. She was in her element, charming, attentive, radiant. Her father pulled me aside, clapped my shoulder. "You're a lucky man," he said, smiling. I didn't respond. Dinner came. We all gathered at the table. Claire sat across from me, eyes sparkling. And that's when I stood up. "I have something for you," I said, my voice calm. "A little surprise." Claire blinked, confused. I pulled the small box from under my chair, wrapped in silver paper, tied with a red ribbon. I walked over and handed it to her. She smiled, nervous now. "What's this? Open it." She hesitated, then peeled back the paper, lifted the lid. Silence. The photos stared back at her. The ones from the Maldives, her in his arms, her lips on his neck. More photos underneath, her slipping out of our house late at night, the Mercedes waiting. Her hands shook as she fumbled through them, her face draining of color. The room fell quiet, all eyes on her. What is this?" she whispered, voice cracking. "You tell me," I said, stepping back, my voice still calm. "Tell them." She looked up, eyes wild, searching for something. An escape, a lie. But there was nothing left. Her mother gasped. Her father stared, jaw clenched. Murmurs filled the room. Then silence again. Claire stood suddenly, knocking over her chair, photos falling from her hands. She ran. Out the door. Into the night. I didn't follow. I just stood there, breathing in the quiet, the wreckage. Her sister whispered, "Is this real?" I nodded once. Later that night, after everyone had left, stunned, silent, broken, she returned. Eyes swollen, makeup streaked. She didn't speak at first, just stood in the doorway, clutching the frame like it was the only thing holding her up. "Please," she said finally, voice raw. "We need to talk." I said nothing. She stepped inside, moved toward me. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she whispered. "I swear. I messed up." Still, I didn't speak. Tears streamed down her face. She reached for me. I stepped back. "This is just the beginning," I said, my voice flat. She crumbled to the floor, sobbing. I walked past her, through the door, into the night air. For the first time in months, I breathed deep. It wasn't over. Not even close. I didn't sleep after that night. Not that I expected to. Claire's sobbing had echoed through the house until dawn, muffled only when she locked herself in the bathroom. I didn't check on her. Didn't care. The kids stayed at my sister's. I'd made sure of that. They didn't need to see what came next. The next morning, I made a call. My buddy from college, Dan, worked with law enforcement. He'd been on the force 15 years, good at what he did, and better at keeping things quiet. "I need a background check," I said. He didn't ask questions. I gave him the guy's info. The bastard from the Mercedes, the one who thought he could slide into my house like he owned it. Dan called back 2 hours later, voice low. "You sitting down? Just tell me." "He's got a warrant. Fraud, embezzlement, identity theft, statewide alert." Silence. "I can have someone pick him up. You want it public?" "Yes," I said. "At my house." Dan exhaled. "That's cold." I didn't respond. That evening, I waited. I knew Claire had called him, heard her on the phone, whispering in the laundry room, asking him to come over, to talk, to figure things out. She thought I didn't know. She still thought she had the upper hand. I stood in the kitchen when the knock came, watched her open the door. He stepped inside, smug, eyes scanning the room, probably looking for me. I stepped out from the hallway, phone in hand, hit record. "Hey," I said, voice calm. He froze. Claire's eyes widened. Before either could speak, red and blue lights flashed through the window. Tires screeched, doors slammed, boots on pavement. Police poured through the front door like a flood. Guns drawn, voices loud. "Hands up! On the ground!" He panicked, reached for something. A phone, maybe. Didn't matter. They tackled him, face to the floor, cuffs snapping shut. Claire screamed. I didn't move. They dragged him out, kicking, shouting. One of the officers handed me a card. "Thanks for the tip," he said. "You just did us a favor." I nodded. Closed the door. Claire turned on me, wild-eyed, shaking. "How could you?" I stepped closer, dropped the phone in her hand. "Replay that scream," I said, "because you're going to hear it in your head for the rest of your life." She tried to speak, but nothing came out. Just a sob, raw, broken. The next morning, I sent the evidence, photos, documents, the video of his arrest, to her family. Her father called once. Didn't leave a message. Didn't need to. He wouldn't be speaking to her again. She lost everything. Her support. Her name. I thought that would be enough, for now. But I was wrong. She struck back. I came home 2 days later and found the house dark, quiet. My office door was open. It was never open. I stepped inside. The safe was empty, gone. Every cent I'd saved, over $4,700 in cash, wiped out. Then my phone buzzed. A video. No message, just the file. I opened it. Claire stood in our bedroom, wild-eyed, manic. She held a lighter in one hand, my stash of money in the other. She laughed, sharp, unhinged, and dropped the bills onto the bed. Then fire, smoke. She looked into the camera, eyes empty. I hope it was worth it. The video cut. I stared at the screen, rage like fire in my chest. But beneath it, something colder. Satisfaction. I saved the video. Then I sent it to everyone. The neighborhood group chat, family, friends, co-workers. No message, no explanation. Just her, burning the life we built. Her reputation collapsed overnight. The messages poured in. Shock, disgust, disbelief. People she called friends cut her off. The neighborhood women banned her from every event. Claire tried to fight back, calling, texting, begging. I didn't answer. She came home, furious, screaming, "You've ruined me!" I stood in the doorway, watching her collapse to the floor. "This is just the beginning," I said. Her eyes locked on mine, full of hatred, fear, regret. She didn't know what was coming next, but I did. Claire vanished for days after the video hit the group chats. Her name was poison now. Every neighbor, every friend she thought she could count on, gone. Her phone calls came less often, her messages shorter, more erratic. Then they stopped. I thought maybe she'd finally gotten the message. Maybe she'd crawled off to whatever hole she could still call hers, but I should have known better. She wasn't done yet. I got the call from the school on a Tuesday afternoon. I was at work, sitting through another meeting that barely held my attention, when my phone buzzed. The principal's number. "Mr. Wallace, you need to come here. Now." I broke every speed limit getting there. Pulled into the lot, tires screaming. The secretary met me at the door, pale and wide-eyed. "She tried to take them," she whispered. My blood ran cold. Claire. They led me to the office. Evan and Josh sat together on a bench, scared, silent. The principal stood with two officers, arms crossed, jaw clenched. "She came in," he said. "Said she was picking them up early. Office staff didn't question it. She had a forged note." I looked at my sons. Still mine, still safe. And then at the officers. "She has no custody," I said, voice low. "We know. She's been taken in for questioning." They let me take the boys home. I drove in silence, white-knuckled, staring at the road like it might shift beneath me at any moment. My hands trembled on the wheel, but I didn't let it show. I couldn't let them see me break again. At home, I made dinner like nothing happened. Read them stories, tucked them in, kissed their foreheads. When the house was quiet, I sat in the dark living room, staring at nothing. Then I sent her a message, 6 words. "This was your game. My rules." No response. I didn't expect one. The next day, I walked into the office, my tie loose, coffee in hand, and sat at my desk for the first time in weeks without feeling like I was going to shatter. That's when Rachel stopped by. She worked 2 floors up. Marketing. We'd known each other for years. Always friendly, always casual. She'd seen the fallout, heard the whispers. She knocked on the doorframe, held up a folder. "Numbers for the quarterly," she said. I nodded, took it, but she didn't leave. She stood there a moment, watching me. "You look better," she said finally. I didn't respond. She hesitated, then smiled. "Some of us are going to the park after work. You should come. Bring the boys." I almost said no, almost defaulted to the same solitude I'd buried myself in for weeks. But something in her tone, the softness, the normalcy, pulled me out. "Yeah," I said. "Maybe I will." That evening, I stood at the park watching Evan and Josh race across the grass, laughing like the world hadn't collapsed around them. Rachel sat nearby, talking to the boys, teasing them gently, her smile easy and warm. For the first time in months, I wasn't thinking about Claire. Wasn't thinking about the betrayal, the rage, the fire. Just the sun, the laughter, the way Rachel's hair caught the light as she turned toward me and smiled. Claire was watching, though. I saw her across the park, half hidden behind a tree. Gaunt, eyes hollow, face pale. She watched us, frozen, her hands trembling at her sides. Then she screamed, loud, broken. 2 officers rushed in from the parking lot, wrestled her to the ground, handcuffed her as she kicked and screamed, sobbing into the grass. I held my boys close. They didn't need to see her anymore. She had nothing left. No kids, no money, no family, no dignity, nothing. And I was just getting started. They say when the storm passes, you're supposed to feel calm, relieved, maybe even grateful that you survived it. That's a lie. When the storm's over, you don't feel anything, just cold. It was over for Claire, even if she hadn't accepted it yet. After the arrest at the park, after the screaming and the cuffs and the whispers that followed her name everywhere she went, she vanished again, crawled into whatever hole she could find to lick her wounds, hide from the life she'd set on fire. But I wasn't finished. Not yet. She'd tried to take my kids. She'd stolen from them, lied to them, used them. There was no coming back from that. The custody hearing was scheduled fast, expedited because of her arrest, her attempted abduction, her complete descent into chaos. I walked into that courtroom with two lawyers at my side and a binder thick enough to crush a man's skull. Claire didn't even show. Her lawyer stood alone, sweating through his cheap suit, barely able to lift his eyes when the judge read the ruling. Sole custody, permanent restraining order, termination of all parental rights. It was done. Legal, sealed. But the emptiness inside me didn't budge, because this wasn't justice. I wasn't going to let her slink away into obscurity. She needed to feel it, every ounce of what she did, and who she did it to. I went nuclear. The video of her burning the $4,700. I edited it, slowed it down, added the audio of her laughing, calling me a blind sheep. Then I dropped it in every group chat, every community page, every social circle she used to claim. Her job, her friends, her distant relatives, her church group. Her shame became viral. Within 24 hours, her phone was blowing up with messages. Hate, confusion, pity. I had access to her accounts. I made sure of that before it all burned down. I read every message, watched her reputation turn to ash in real time. She messaged me begging, "I've lost everything. Please stop." I didn't respond. Then came the final move. I contacted her landlord, the owner of the rental she moved into after I kicked her out. Told him about the criminal charges, the police reports, the fraud. Sent him the video. 3 days later, she was evicted. I tracked her down, a grimy motel on the edge of town. I didn't even need to knock. The door was cracked open, the room inside dim, silent. She sat on the bed, knees drawn up, hair tangled, eyes empty. She didn't even look at me. "Why are you here?" she whispered. I stepped in, let the door close behind me. "You ruined your life," I said, "but you tried to ruin mine." She flinched. "You tried to take my sons. You burned our money. And for what?" "I was lost," she muttered. "I didn't know what I was doing. I made mistakes." "Mistakes?" I stepped closer. "Number mistakes or accidents. You made choices. Every lie, every night with him, every stolen dollar. Choices." Her hands shook. She reached for me, desperate, pathetic. "Please, I still love you." I laughed. Cold, hollow. "You don't love anything but yourself." I pulled out my phone and played the clip. Her voice, her laughter, calling me a blind sheep, mocking the man who gave her everything. She crumbled, sobbing, choking on her own guilt. I stepped closer, crouched down until she had no choice but to look into my eyes, to see what she'd created. "This is your legacy," I said. "You're nothing. No husband, no kids, no family, no future." She grabbed my arm, pleading. I pulled away, cold and final. "Let her burn." I walked out, leaving her in that room with her shame and the wreckage of the life she used to have. A week later, I took the boys upstate. The waterfall we used to visit, back before any of this. Evan and Josh laughed as they ran along the rocks, throwing sticks, their voices echoing in the air. Rachel stood beside me, her hand brushing mine, quiet, steady. I watched the sun set behind the falls, orange light washing over the water, the world calm for the first time in months. This wasn't peace. This was freedom. Claire, she had nothing. And me, I had everything worth keeping. That's all for now, folks. Thank you for being with me today and listened. And if you liked my story, please subscribe, Hit the like button and comment below what you think about all this and what would you do if you were me. Also, don't forget to check my other stories in description below.